Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Good morning. This is the regularly scheduled Executive Board Full Commission meeting for Thursday, October 17, 2013. Do apologize for the delay. F&P ran over a little bit in important business that we discussed here today. We'll begin with our quorum numbers. Do we have enough for?
We are short one member for a full commission. We have enough for executive board.
Okay, so we do have enough for executive board. So any motion that needs to take place today has been made by an executive board member and second for business to move forward. The information to move forward on it. So we'll start with the report of the chair. The first thing I will offer to any commission member or any commission members here today that needs to bring any items to add to the agenda that's been brought from your constituents of your community.
Sorry, I'm really not trying to interrupt your meeting, but I'm trying to ask Mary where the audio loop is.
I was not aware you were going to be here, so I did not get it.
I'm here, ma'am. I'm the one asking for
We
it.
both said from here on. No, so did I, Matt.
Okay, any other commission member? I do have one that was been brought to my attention. Max brought up a situation that with South Lake Community Services that provides demand response in South County may have some issues with the fact that the operation of the bus and how people are loaded.
He can't hear.
How people are engaged and loaded in and out of the buses on an efficient manner that would be a cost savings or a cost service to the client. Max, I will give you the opportunity, Max, if you want to be recognized and talk about the situation that you brought to my attention about the operation of the buses when people are loaded and unloaded off that bus. Do you want the opportunity to speak in front of the full commission here this morning?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing partially what you're saying.
That's why
You brought to my attention yesterday about the services from South Lake Community Services on
Yes.
demand response.
Yes.
That the operation of the buses sometimes causes conflict on how people are entered and exited from the buses. On a financial note, can you please bring that to the attention of this board, since this body does get involved with transportation dollars to that agency, on how we can be more efficient and more productive about that service. And I'm giving you the opportunity to speak in front of the commission here this morning on that topic.
Yes, sir. And I'm not sure how you're saying my name. So I get called Matt and a bunch of other things besides M-A-C, Matt.
Matt.
So I wasn't sure you were talking to me or not, but I thought you kept saying Matt or Matthew. And so I said, wait, I don't think he's talking to me about you. I apologize if you're calling me Matt, but I didn't hear Matt. I heard Matt.
Mac, you do have the floor. Would you like to talk to the commission about your
Oh, now let me get to talk.
Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can.
It's Reverend Mack, and as a visually impaired, blind community, we do need people to address us by letting us know who they are. And I don't know who's all in here, but we'll get to that later. To the commission, the board, what we were talking about yesterday was, I live in the residence of Maryville Lake at 8400 Grant, and they have a photo security guard system there. It is an arm that allows the vehicles to come in and keep vehicles that shouldn't be in, but it does take a picture of the vehicles that do come in. This arm has been hit at least 3 times since I've been there about South Lake. One time by Gary Transit. The reason it usually gets hit is because people do not read or cannot see the sign. And I think if you see like me, you have no business driving. So I don't know why they're missing this big sign. It says there. It says stop, wait, pause, and it's taking a picture. Many people piggyback on this thing. This is what's happening with the South Lake. they are piggybacking and going in after someone else goes in, and sometimes it stays up longer than other times because it's been bumped or whatever, and maybe they don't have it properly fixed. I don't know. I'm not in here to talk about that part. But what I am to talk about is that because this last time it got hit by South Lake, the person went in and they had this disagreement about whose fault it was. We were sent a letter, those that ride South Lake in that building, saying that we had to come out and walk, or whatever way it means that you had to get to the outside of the complex onto the street of Grant Street to get on the bus. It was no longer going to come inside the complex. We have 4 buildings, A, B, C, and D. To get to that street is probably 50 yards or better from the front door outside to the Grant Street. If you're in a wheelchair or whatever else, you're probably not going to be able to get there. You know, the weather's bad or whatever, you wouldn't want to go there. It's a door-to-door service. So many of the people who are residents there, 55 and over, said, well, I'm not going to walk out there, so I just won't take the bus. And I expressed to them that's not the proper thing to do because we have a door-to-door service that should be coming. So we were left hanging there. So I heard from both sides, but I heard from one side saying that they went to court and South Lake had to pay the $1,500, and that was the reason why the letter was sent to us in retaliation to get back at the resident people to make us mad at them. And it's funny to me because it seems like people always patronize someone to get someone to like them, and then when something goes wrong, they want to throw the blame somewhere else, and people aren't taught to take responsibility for what they do wrong anymore. And this is another case of that. So who suffers? The other people who are, whatever it's for, are the people who end up suffering because people who do the wrong don't want to take responsibility and keep passing it on to someone else and say, they did it, they did it. And that's where we're at with this. So I expressed that to Commissioner Uran, Commissioner Davis, yesterday about that. And you guys, NERC, being you guys fund them. And I'm wondering why, since you fund them, why isn't something done in behalf of the people who you say you represent? The people are suffering again. And then we keep getting the runaround. We come and you're told to go through the chain of command, 15 people you have to go through, and if you don't get hung up in the process or get stood up because the person doesn't have time to talk to you, and we were getting tired of doing that. So that's why some of us are at this meeting, because we want to meet head on, face to face. I can't go to some of your office because I have to take a number, and I'm going to be 1,000 somewhere down the back end somewhere or something, especially if you don't like me. And so that's what we were talking about. I was told that would be addressed. I do applaud him that he did address that. He kept his word on that. But that doesn't mean that there's not a problem. I grew up military, so I don't like being patronized. I don't like people getting up in my face and smiling, and then I know they really don't mean me well. And I'm not saying that that's what you've done, sir, but I don't. So please don't patronize me, because if you do that with me, I'm going to do. All I can do is say, Lord, forgive them. They do not know what they do. They're sinning. They don't realize it. They're saying before God they're doing one thing and hypocritic being something else. And I will pray for you. And then I ask you, please pray for me, because I don't want to find myself judging somebody. But right now, I feel the atmosphere. There's so much going on here. There's so many people have unforgiveness in their heart. It's just awful in here. It's just so much unforgiveness. People are in public place and they're getting people that are getting people that come in and say they're represented and they love their job, and yet there's 1 or 2 people that you let mess your whole day up because you can't get along with that person. You hate that you're in the same room with them, and you're representing people. And you think some of us can't feel that. We feel that.
Matt, I'm going to have to cut you short. I know what you're saying. We appreciate the sentiment of fellowship. But we're trying to address your situation here about South Lake Community Services, and I am informed we do have a full quorum now. Would it be appropriate to have a motion that we have our executive director reach out to Margaret Sabato to find out what the situation is, because this is supposed to be a demand pickup from door to door, and find out, make sure that they are complying with those rules.
We can certainly do that as staff. Whether you want to have a motion on that is up to you. We certainly do. I think an official motion, and it would, on the record, would be best.
Mr. Carney.
Have it on the record.
Do I understand,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman?
Curtin.
I serve on South County Community Services, and I'm going to question, Robert H. Carnahan is going to question what's going on here also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is a full board meeting. I've been going to NERC meetings only 10 years, and there's a lot of people that have been going a lot longer than me, okay? First off, and a lot of people sitting around this table that have been going a lot longer than me, I acknowledge. But I've been pretty consistently going for 10 years, and I hear a lot about a hostile environment here. Up until the last 6 months, I've never seen NERC problems. Like, we've all, I don't even know which party 3/4 of the people sitting around this table are from. We just get along. Always have got along. And done great work. So it's interesting to me that people that just really showed up recently talk about how bad things are at NERC. A. B, we have committees that handle business like this. I think it's highly unusual. I mean, first off, I think it's very nice of you as chairman to grant this gentleman a quorum in front of this board, but this isn't the proper jurisdiction. He should be talking to a committee, if anything, and it should come from the committee to the full board, like every other resolution we deal with. Like, why are we at a full board hearing this? No offense, sir. This should be handled by a committee. And then the committee makes a recommendation to us, and we say yes or no. That's how it works.
Great time. I normally, I agree with you 100%, especially in the first part. The second part with the slightly rule change of the hybrid, trying to get more people involved to really talk about the agenda items. I did open up an opportunity for commission members to work with the constituents to bring things that maybe NERC could be involved in. That was not on actual agenda itself. So Mac brought this to my attention yesterday in a situation that probably didn't begin in a very conducive atmosphere, but I found a silver lining in the ability to interact with a group that was in Crown Point. He brought this to our attention, and I thought this was the perfect venue to bring it to this body to allow the full commission members, even though it could go to a committee or could go to staff, that this is an important issue that NERC should be involved with.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something then? Then I think everybody counts should be grateful to you as chairman, because that's a decision you as chairman made to give them a quorum. And listen, could I talk, please? Could I talk, please? I think that you made a very kind gesture, because I've never seen that in 10 years I've been going. That something that's not on the agenda takes the first half hour of a meeting of a full board. And we have business to conduct still. Right. I've never seen this. So I think it's very kind of you, Mayor.
My decision wasn't just for everybody counts. It's just for anybody that has a situation, because a lot of times we get caught up at the end of the public comment that are items that really NERC is not involved in, and we've allowed that public comment to go on. Okay, so we're trying to basically be more constructive with our time. Believe it or not, the valuable time that everybody's here is to make sure that the dialogue is about what NERC can help with. If you've got a flooding in your backyard, you've got a speeding vehicle in your backyard, this is not the venue just because it's transportation to do it. You need to work with your local elected officials. And we're hoping that more people can be recognized who represents their community as commissioners and have them follow that chain first and bring those items here. So with that being said, it might not be something we've done in the past, and I'm not saying that might something to continue in the future, but there's a different change of direction. And again, this is not specifically for one organization to appease them. It's for the holistic philosophy of how you represent your community. And as the chair with only 2 meetings left in common, trust me, the next chair can change the rule.
You can do it another year.
Yes, we are. Can we entertain a motion on this? I would love to have a motion on this.
You have it, Mr.
We have a motion with a second.
Second.
Okay, now we have discussion. So,
Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, I am not Everybody Counts. I am Lake County CAT, Council of Accessible Transportation. I am talking this matter on that behalf of the Council of Accessible Transportation, sir, as well as the other gentleman that was referring that this is Everybody Counts. I'm not Everybody Counts. I am the Council of Accessible
I've got a point of order here. We have a motion in the second floor. Mac, I don't want to cut you off, but we have a protocol with ground rules of order here. We do have a motion. We have a second. Is there any other discussion by commission members?
What exactly is the motion?
The motion is to have Ty work with the staff to reach out to South Lake and make sure that they're complying with the door-to-door response.
And not to be out of place, we did not receive a letter saying anything any different, so we don't know whether we're supposed to walk out or do
Mac,
what.
with all respect, Mac, we have a protocol here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Call for the question.
All in favor with an aye? Aye. Against? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mac, thank you for bringing it to my attention. Next up on the chairman's report.
You're welcome.
I was given a report by the ad hoc committee on the public participation plan. I had a chance to have a conversation and review with Ty Warner and also our attorney Dave Hollenbach. And we want to, first of all, appreciate all the efforts that took place, Mayor Copeland and your staff, the people who were appointed to the committee, and the people that volunteered their time to come there that maybe weren't actually appointed as far as the committee, but took the time to be engaged with this draft. I do want to make this draft now part of the public record. Mary, you have an official copy put in it, so it is now, it can be disseminated to the public in any manner that sees fit. But I do, as the chair, recommend, because there's a lot of good ideas in here, and that the TPC did forward an initial draft for consideration for vote, that this draft be then sent back to the TPC, work with the ad hoc committee to see if there's a merge of these ideas and see if a participation plan can be forwarded. Every commission member this morning, you will receive an electronic version of this document, so in your email, if you haven't received it already, if you go back to your respective offices that you received your correspondence from this agency, you will have the document for your review as well. And I'm sure the TPC committee and the ad hoc committee would love the dialogue and interaction between the commission members on this document. And that's, David, anything else we need to do with this?
I don't think so. You disseminated it, and you indicated an inclination to send it back to the TPC to consider it as any additional changes to the public participation plan. And that's the game plan.
Mayor Copeland, any comments as you chaired this committee? And Mr. Petty was the chair of TPC's meeting this morning, so.
No, it's just we have the draft has the changes clearly indicated as it came out of that ad hoc committee, and that draft will go to the TPC, and I think we're going to get that report as well.
And really,
Okay, then moving on, we did receive correspondence a few weeks back from Mrs. Torres to some questions addressed to Mr. Hollenbach, and I will defer to Mr. Hollenbach at this time.
I've met with the staff and secured the information I think we need to fully respond to the questions, and that process of putting those answers together is underway and hopefully will be completed expeditiously, and we will respond.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for my report as the chair this morning, and so we'll move on. First thing is the approval of the minutes that took place on September 19, 2013. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes as presented be approved.
second.
Motion with a second. Any discussion? Corrections, deletions, or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor with an aye? Aye. Against? The ayes have it. We'll turn this over to Finance and Personnel Committee. Mayor Bilo. Sorry.
The Finance and Personnel Committee met earlier this morning. We had, you have a resolution, number 1321, that is in your packet, that there was discussion amongst the F&P committee about this resolution. The impetus for this resolution is that there have been some processing delays in some of the funds that we will be receiving, particularly from INDOT, and my understanding is that they're working through some different systems. There was an effort then made on our part to look at if we needed to be able to establish a letter of credit with Horizon Bank, and this particular resolution would allow up to $600,000, but then would require an interest rate of 3% over the savings investment rate. And after we've had some discussion, we're hopeful to not have to then take those steps to enact this resolution. I think that there's going to be some resolution on the processing delays that have been caused in being able to meet our cash flow requirements. So We tabled this resolution at the F&P committee and are hopeful to not have to bring this forward again. We'll be able to work through and work with NDOT on what the processing delays have been, so then we will not be required to take these measures. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on, Environmental Management Policy Commission. Kevin?
Yes, we're going to have a meeting, or we have our meetings the first Thursday of every month. We'll have a discussion about the Dark Skies Initiative to put lights out, unnecessary lighting that is, and have a demonstration of model ordinances in that pursuit. Also, the board asked me, or the committee asked me to bring up the issue with the National Resources Commission in that there's no representation in Northwest Indiana. And this is the governor's prerogative to make appointments, but we'd like those people in the room, when the appointments come around next time, that perhaps he would consider. I think it was just an oversight. It wasn't anything that came up intentionally, but I don't think he's aware of the fact that we don't have that representation. So I thought the committee had just bring that up.
Thank you. We'll go on to the Transportation Policy Committee. Representative.
Chairman, I'll make that report for Mr. Pettit. Transportation Policy Committee met on Tuesday, October 8th. We have 2 actions for consideration today. Draft minutes of the meeting can be found starting on page 12 of today's agenda packet. The committee heard an update on the Iliana process, which outlined the proposed schedule leading up to a possible action to amend NERC's comprehensive regional plan at the December 12th commission meeting. That would include the Iliana project and an I-65 widening project. The public comment period for the amendment began on October 14th and will run through November 20th. 4 meetings will be held to hear comments. The dates, times, and places of the public meetings are on a separate handout. I encourage NERC commissioners to attend these public meetings to hear what people have to say. We have 2 actions for you to consider today, one on the Unified Planning Work Program and the other on the Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. The first action would amend the work program, changing its budget to include funds to replace traffic counting machines. The Transportation Policy Committee moves for the adoption of this Resolution 13-12 found on page 17 and 18.
Second. Motion, a second. Discussion?
Yes, is it, I think the number on the agenda is 13-20 for clarification.
Did I say 13-20?
Should 13-12.
I'm sorry.
You amend your motion that includes Resolution 13-20?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of it, aye? Aye. Yes, you guys have it. Thank you.
The second action is on Resolution 1322, TIP Amendment number 3, which begins on page 18. Note the table found on page 20 that lists the 2 projects is an easier to read format than before. Hence, the Transportation Policy Committee recommends the adoption for Resolution 13-22.
There's a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on 13-22? Hearing none, all in favor of the aye? Aye. Yes, you guys have it.
The next meeting of the Transportation Policy Committee is scheduled at 9 o'clock, Tuesday, November 12th. And that concludes the report. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go right to the pathway to 2040.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you, and I thank the commission. Just to briefly go over a little bit of our most recent meeting, we did meet on the 10th of October, and we heard a report regarding the at-grade crossing study with regard to Northwest Indiana, which is an initiative to take a look at all of the railroad crossings and to evaluate the condition as part of a larger process to improve them where needed. We also received an update on the Ileana Corridor project, and in consequence of that, there was a spirited discussion among the members of the implementation committee about being able to also make a recommendation. As this body is probably aware, in December, we'll be tasked with determining whether or not the comprehensive plan would be amended to include the Ileana Expressway, as well as an amendment to our TIP. And it was the feeling of the implementation committee that that was an issue so close to the essence of the current comprehensive plan that they felt that they wanted to inform the deliberation of the commission further and add their input. So we'll be convening a special committee on the 4th of December towards that end. The next matter, though, that we're coming before you with is actually a matter that we're going to ask this commission to take up as a matter of business. But before we do that, I'd like to allow you to consider the report with regard to livable centers, which is actually another essential part of our comprehensive plan. Part of that is set before you in this really good map that illustrates the identification of livable centers throughout our catchment area. And I want to just commend to you Iman Ibrahim, who is herself an exemplary planner. And she's actually been tasked with presenting to you this morning a little background on what the Livable Centers Initiative is, its relationship to our comprehensive plan, and to help further advance your understanding of it so that you may cast a vote with regard to a resolution related to that.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. It's okay to turn now. Sign. You're fine. Take it out. Iman, excuse me, microphone, please. Oh, yeah. Thank you. This way. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm presenting today one of the first implementation projects of the 2040 plan. I'm going to talk about the NERC initiative of livable centers, as well also as a new funding program that we are pursuing here at NERC. So during the process of the 2040 plan, we looked at the, is that on? During the process of the 2040 plan, we identified the centers or livable centers within our communities. And we classified into different size of starting from metro center to a small community. So in a metro center, we will have like more commercial activities, major employments, more residential and population within these centers, and also will have some regional economy around the metro center. An example of this size of a metro center will be like a Hammond and Gary. And then also we look at the large communities. We classified here all the communities between 20,000 people to 70,000 as a large community. And that's like very much freestanding communities like Valparaiso, Crown Point, some of these communities. They still also have like employment, they have services within their area. Also they have a significant residential within their communities. And then the mid-sized community will have less activities than the large. Example of that is Lowell, Dyer, and St. John. And then moving to small communities, it's mostly rural centers supporting basic living within the area, but all their needs, they depend on mid-sized community or a large community. And that's basically has a population of up to 6,000 people. So when I'm talking about the total population, it's for the whole city or town. So during the process also of the 2040 plan, the staff worked with the communities. We tried to identify the different centers within their communities. So some communities identified only one, some identified three. Could be a livable center of a downtown or a neighborhood centers. So that's what we have, more than one in Gary, other communities. So it was just a conceptual location of a dot on a map. So with the implementation of the 2040 plan here, we have some recommendations. We said, to encourage livability and accessibility, we called for transit-oriented development and livable centers initiatives in the 2040 plan. This initiative is one of the main urban framework strategies that we have in the comprehensive plan. As we have like significant growth going outside the urbanized area, in the unincorporated area, and also we consume significant open space and on this. Okay. So I have so many things in my hand now. And we have like a significant loss of open space and agricultural land. Yeah, this is much better. So we decided to go back again to our downtown area livable centers, especially we still have some vacancy rate within these centers, and we have enough land. When we looked at the 2040, the projected population is to add 170,000 people by 2040. And we look at the land within our urbanized area or within the neighborhood and downtown, we have already enough land to handle this population by 2040. So we really don't need to go outside of in the unincorporated area. So that was our recommendation in the 2040 plan. So what's a livable center? So we keep talking about livable centers. So livable centers here clustering many activities of land use in a compact area. So people have the opportunity to accomplish various activities within this center. And here the Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, that's what he defined. Livability is a big thing now, you know, with the Federal Transit Authority and also the Federal Highway Department. They are pushing now for livability and public transportation, and they wanted to come back to our downtown area. Yeah. So, and that's what he said here, you know, like to be able to take your kids to school, work, or to see a doctor, drop by the grocery, post office, dinner, movie, play with your kids in the park. It's all within walking distance. You don't have to use your car. So that's basically what's a livable center. So why livable centers? Why it's really important now? Because the high gas prices, we have some environmental negative impacts on air quality, the carbon emissions, the stormwater runoff. And also we have a shortage in funding. We don't have enough funding anymore to build and add more infrastructure outside of the urbanized area. So that's really important. And of course, you know, that will be the results. You know, if we focus more in livable centers, we reduce congestion, less cars travel on the road, and of course, reduce single occupant vehicle travel. So what's in the livable centers, you know, that's how to make it easy to multiple destination by foot, bicycle, car, or transit. And then we look at also the connectivity. As you see in this one, this is the very poor connectivity, you know, like to encourage people to walk or go around. And that's what in a livable center, it should have a good connectivity, good grid system within a livable centers. So we have a well-designed sidewalk system and good connectivity, as I mentioned here. Concentrate housing, employment, shopping, entertainment within the livable centers. Livable centers have to be compact, mixed-use development, building facing the streets, as you see here. We don't want to see huge surface parking and the building way in the back. That's not a good feature in a livable centers. The block length, it has to be 400 to 600 feet in length, so that's the good grid system. So it provides good connectivity, and like you can connect from point A to point B in a very short distance. Many access options, you know, the multimodal of pedestrian, bike, trail, transit, roadway, it's all within a center. It should be convenient, safe, easy street crossing. And also safety, we're talking about security, so you have to have like a good lighting within a livable center, so to make it even safe for people to walk at night. Well-maintained public streets, we're looking also for a high quality and public gathering places here And also, you will have activities to be happen in the daytime and nighttime. So, what we did, we said, okay, dot on a map, like as you saw, is not gonna work. We don't want a conceptual just dot on the map. So, for the implementation of the 2040 plan, we added 2 new programs to our Unified Planning Work Program. The first one is Livable Center Initiatives, and the second one is Creating Livable Communities, or CLC as we call it. So in the first project, we put a scope to work with the communities, try to define the boundary of their livable centers or neighborhood centers. So we met with the communities, every single communities, and we did that. But before that, we said, okay, let's start doing some analysis. We are a team of 5 staff here, so we have 4 planners, and then we have Sarah doing all the GIS mapping and cartography for us for this project. So we said, let's look at the doing some GIS analysis. So through the analysis together, we said, we said the block size has to be between 400 feet and 600 feet in length. So we made this assumption, so we put a layer showing that. And then the residential density is between, in a small rural community, maybe 8 people per acre, and then as we go to a larger community, 15 to 20 people per acre. We look at the employment density also, we said it has to be between 15 and 25 employees per acre based on the size of the community. If the community has any transit stations or stops. And also the density, the roadway density and connectivity. So we look at that too, and then we looked at the land use, what kind of land use they have within the centers. They have mixed use, they have residential, commercial, or they have a TOD. So that we looked at that, we reviewed their codes and ordinance to see what they have. And then also we gathered data and we created a livability checklist. So we take it with us when we meet with the communities. They go over this checklist to see where they are within their centers. That's an example, of the analysis before we meet with the community. That's Valparaiso here. So when we did the analysis, 1,600 feet, that's the perimeter, which we made the assumption when we divided by 4 will be around 400 feet in length as the block size. So all the green here, look at Valparaiso is one of the very good center that just through the analysis, it shows a lot of things. And we have a number of communities also showing that. And we noticed that in the older urban communities, they have a very good base for a strong center. So it shows us here is a concentration, and then we have some area here too. So we added also the mixed use, which is a purple one. They have a zoning contributing to a mixed use. We put the bus transit one, and then the employment, 25 people or more. That's all the blue color, so it's concentrated in the downtown area. So that's what we do usually, just the preliminary analysis for each community. We take it to them and then we discuss it because they have future plans, they have other plans. Some communities, it doesn't show as a strong, like maybe like this one, but they have a very good plan and we consider that too when we identify the center. So that's the preliminary analysis. Yeah, here I'll close up to the downtown area in Valpo. And then we look at the roadway density. So the darker the color is showing that like it's a high concentrated density of street network. And look again, it's basically around the downtown area or the core of any city. So that's another proof that we are going in the right direction with our analysis. And that's the centers when we did the analysis showing exactly it's all within the higher density of the street network. So what we did, the project teams, we met with the 19 cities and towns. It's basically between the mid-sized communities to the metro center communities. So we identified livable centers and neighborhood centers. But also we met with the transit operators because we said for all the public transportation area, we defined half a mile walking distance around a station, and we said this area also will be good, within a livable centers or for the future funding. And then for the small communities, we had 22 communities left. So we held a workshop here at NERC, having them working on the boundary of their centers. We only had one communities, which is Dune Acres. They said they prefer not to have a center, and they said they are depending on Chesterton and Porter in getting their stuff, and they don't want to have livable centers. So, and we are respecting that too. So that's the map. This is another map showing the final result. So you still have all the green and yellow and hatching and everything, that's our analysis. But then when we worked, this is City of LaPorte, they defined this like a dark red or fuchsia, whatever, as a major downtown center, and then they defined another area as a neighborhood centers, which you will have less restriction than a downtown. So the density will be less, the employment will be less. It's different than the downtown area. So that's the final map that we agreed upon with the communities, and we created maps for each single community. And now we are in the process of developing the final report, including all of this mapping and a description of the livable centers. That's the transit area map with a half a mile around all the transit stops. That's also will be included as part of the future funding. That's again, this is like the whole map showing all the centers within our area. The purple is the neighborhood, and then the red one is downtown centers. And this is a map that you have in front of me. And then, like as a continuation of the 2040 implementation, we, as I mentioned in the beginning, we created the funding program. So we putting really transportation dollars behind the planning effort. We developed this new funding program because we said, okay, have planning without actual funding and implementation, it won't be really useful. So we said we have to link it to funding, and we have to encourage communities to start planning within their livable communities. So we identified that it's basically this program started with the Group 1 surface transportation funding, because they are the one provided the current funding of $400,000 for 2 years, 14 and 15 fiscal year. And so LaPorte County or LaPorte Group 2, we're still working on that because they needed all their money this period. So we try to identify different options for them, or maybe the next round they were able to identify certain money for the livable centers communities. So we did that for the 2 years, 400,000 will be released in November for communities to apply for planning projects within their centers. So
Question.
that's.
Can I ask a question? Would that be out of order?
What?
Why was Porter County not included again?
Lake and Porter. LaPorte is the one is not included.
Could you go back to the previous slide then? I'm confused. I don't believe it says that. It says Lake and LaPorte counties.
Oh, that's a mistake. I'm sorry.
So that's rather confusing when we're trying to follow.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna correct that. But it's basically here, yeah, as I mentioned, it's Lake and Porter counties. So again, that's why we have that to support community-based transportation land use projects for the downtown area, neighborhood station area, commercial area, and transit corridor. So we are looking to, we are guided by the principle of placemaking, and that's how to improve and have a better quality of life, so you can encourage businesses and people to move to these centers. So eligibility for this project, as I mentioned, we have the livable centers map that you have in front of you. and also transit area map that have a half a mile. So any community wanted to apply for this funding, the project has to be located within the identified area in the livable center map or around transit station. The type of grant that we will have, it's a planning projects, pre-development plan to revitalize existing centers, neighborhood, downtown, transit stop, transit corridors, or also they can have create an ordinance, TOD ordinance or a mixed use ordinance. So, and also have a projects ready to compete for grants in the capital project category. That's another thing. So once they have a project or a pre-development plan ready, they can go and compete to a highway project or the transportation project under STP, and that's also, we will make sure that we have a criteria that's supporting these centers, so they can make it up and compete for projects within these centers. Examples of issue, like in downtown area, like we could have like a building, deteriorated building like that. You see this one, we don't have a sidewalk, we don't have a good connectivity. So that's some examples of the issue that they could do. Another one here, they wanted to create a downtown plan or a neighborhood plan. So converted from this one to one with the now different mixed use. They have a higher density, they have infill, they have like a crosswalk. We see that, I see East Chicago started already doing stuff like that within their downtown area, that's what we are looking for. That's another example how they convert area, and from an area with the surface parking and like a vacant like that, which is not easy to cross in this one to a life area, have more and safe crossing. They have infill and they got all of these buildings, so they have more livable downtown area. Another example here, that's another area and how they convert. I'm just showing you the before and after, and how this is San Diego. They have a similar program, so they try to do that, and also Galveston, in Atlanta. So many MPOs already started this effort. The only difference that we are creating a report and redefining the boundary. But for them, the only thing, it has to be like within a smart growth area. So that's the difference that they are doing. Another example is here, how they convert the area. So we could keep some building like this, and then they do infill and then create a median here, and then they have like a define the bike lane and then better crosswalk. The examples of projects also, as I mentioned, improve sidewalk here, and it said this is like unuseful at all, so people cannot really use this one. Build buildings up to the street, so no surface parking, they bring all the building here. Create active facades, so this is one in a downtown area which is really is not an active or attractive facades. It has to be something like that. And then, of course, the signage also will be part of these planning projects. They could have, an area like that is already existing, so they cannot make any changes, but they could like create some enclosure here for communities. They add some trees, create a wall, have like some fencing, so make it like more attractive to convert it. This is with existing one that they cannot do a retrofit or something like that. So another project here showing how they improve the area and convert it completely to a livable centers. So this is the type of plans that we will be looking for within our downtown area or a neighborhood area. And again, we are finalized that. We finalized also the application. Mr. Murphy is going to talk about the application and how we did that to review it and approve it and everything. So that's conclude my presentation. We hope to have nice livable centers like you see here.
This last week, Robert Carnahan, town of Cedar Lake. This week, we had a gentleman come into our planning meeting, and he's coming from Sherrville. And he told me that they're purchasing a house at 133rd and Morrison Lakeshore Drive. And he said he is coming there due to the fact that he won't have to use his car because there's like 5 eating centers there. There's 2 local grocery, small, that they could buy essentials. And there's a doctor's office, and then they have the view of our 781 acre lake.
That will be what we're looking for, you know, like communities, like maybe they can't afford now, they have lack of budget to really add this quality, you know, to their downtown area, or they cannot afford planning for this area. And that's really, you know, as I reviewed different communities, they were completely have deteriorated downtown area, vacant buildings, and then within 20 years, when they did these livable centers, they had like 90% was occupied, you know, for all the buildings. They brought business back, the economic development improved, people moved to the downtown area. So it's just need, you know, like a support, you know, like how to do that, how to convert it, and how to, business, when they see this quality of life, they wanted to come and have their business there.
And that's another thing.
Yeah.
All the businesses in that area is owned by the Kubel family. And they told me this last week, this is the first time in many, many years that all their buildings are now occupied.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's a good example.
Iman, thank you so much for that presentation. By way of amplification, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the question about LaPorte, as the Commission may remember, owing to the new definitions in the census, the metropolitan center boundaries have changed a little bit. So sometimes that does mean that we have to treat LaPorte differently, in some cases just because of where it lay. And that's part of what's happened here. And so we're still one NERC, we still care about LaPorte a great deal. I want to make sure that Her Honor, the Mayor, knew that we cared about that. Also, I want to call your attention to pages 22 and 23 in your packet. The Implementation Committee is recommending to the Commission its favor to pass and adopt Resolution 13-23. There is one change, however, from the one in your packet, and although it doesn't make a lot of substantive changes, it was determined, our intention was with this resolution that you not only adopt the map that you have before you, but also the idea of the grant program itself, the $400,000 that was alluded to and referenced in the presentation. It was believed that in the enacting clause, which would be on page 23, and the enacting clause is identified by the start of the words, now therefore be it resolved. We have added in the second sentence where it would read, Commission hereby adopts, instead of saying define the livable centers boundary map, it will now read, adopts the CLC program and the defined livable centers boundary map. And that addition is to clarify, although the preamble makes a mention of it, we wanted to have it in the enacting clause because we believe that that better clarified that the approval we're seeking from you is both the grant program is identified as well as the map. That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman. I thank you all for your forbearance, and we ask the Commission's full favor for the adoption of 1323.
For the motion?
Motion to approve.
Is he amending it?
It's not necessarily amended. The enrolled version of it is ready to be engraved, so it wouldn't require an amendment from the Commission here. I'm reminding the Commission that we're presenting something different in the packet, and absent the desire of the Commission to make amendments, which it would be if given its right, I'm just reminding you that we're hoping that you will be willing, and the motion that would be entertained would be to adopt the resolution as I've described it.
Do we have a motion to that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 1323.
As described?
As you have.
Do you have a second?
Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
Second motion. We have discussion? Hearing none, all in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Against? You guys have it?
I thank the Commission and the Chair.
We'll go right into Land Use Committee. Mr. Woodson?
Mr. Chair, on the note of the full Commission approving this resolution, I would just like to commend the NERC staff, Iman and her staff, for an excellent job working with each community and producing these high-quality maps that, if you have time to look at, really give you
a snapshot of your community and where the opportunities are in these livable centers. As far as the Land Use Committee is concerned, we are very passionate about these elements of a livable center, and these aren't concepts, these are policy in the successful communities across the country that are implementing these strategies. And it really comes down to a healthy center is a healthy community, and this concept is working, and it's working in Northwest Indiana as we see many of the communities betting on these downtowns and their lakefronts and these livable centers. So on that note, just a brief committee report. We did meet Wednesday, September 18th. The committee did review the application for the Creating Livable Communities and approved the draft of the application, recommended approval of the Defined Livable Centers boundary map, which the commission has in front of them, and we recommended approval of the resolution, and I want to thank the full commission for their support of that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Legislative Committee, Tom?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to remind everybody or inform everybody tomorrow we're having a legislative committee meeting tomorrow here at NERC, 2 o'clock. Friday, 2 o'clock meeting. I know they're very popular, but
I love you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll see you there. At that meeting, we have 5 discussion items that we're going to attempt to get through. Some of them are going to be complicated. I'm hoping that by the next time we have a full commission meeting that we can have resolutions ready to present so that we're ready for the legislative session, which we all know starts January 1st. There's a resolution regarding a bill that was carried by Representative Candelaria Reardon last year that would recompose the NICD board. That's going to be an item of discussion in tomorrow's legislative meeting. A reauthorization of a federal program called MAP 21. I think Ty could probably provide more on his report on that, but we're going to be discussing that as well. A resolution in support of the Westlake Corridor. There's some discussion whether or not we even support that as a regional body. We're going to be talking about that. Resolution in support of a NERC task force for the reauthorization of the Regional Development Authority. I think that's going to be a big topic item. I think it's going to definitely come up during the General Assembly this year, so we're going to try to see if we can support the resolution in regards to that. And a resolution in support of a regional infrastructure improvement zone. That's something that Ty was informing us about. We're going to be talking about that as well. Should be, hopefully we can get done in a couple hours. Hopefully we can get a couple resolutions kicked to the full board so that we can discuss them at this level and decide whether or not we're going to take a stand on any of those issues. Obviously, if there's any other issues that you feel should be raised, that would be the appropriate forum to raise it in, and maybe we could get resolutions in support of your goals to the full board as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Northwest Indiana Economic Development District, Roosevelt Helen, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. The Northwest Indiana Economic Development District, currently there's not an awful lot of activity, ongoing activity, because of the federal sequestration, and it's seriously affecting the EDA budgets. Although we are still maintaining the SEDS, with the current shutdown of the government by Congress, we've been unable to communicate with the EDA. We are trying to we're continuing to try to get our formal district status from the EDA, and we're trying to reinforce our support by getting resolutions from the county commissioners from the 3 counties. Also a letter of support from the governor, a letter of support from the Secretary of Commerce. It's important for us to get the formal district status, because then we can get an operations grant to fund our operations. And also, if we're formally granted district status, the communities in the region that do not meet the distressed community parameters of the federal government will still be able to apply for public infrastructure grants from the EDA. So that's important, because currently without the formal district status, only the distressed communities can apply. once we get the formal district status, then communities in the region that are more affluent will be able to apply for the infrastructure grants also. So fortunately for us, Congress just restarted the government, and the EDA is still in limbo because I think the government, all of this activity by Congress is only good for what, about 60 days up until January. So everybody's apprehensive because they don't know what to expect. There's a lot of uncertainty going on right now at the EDA. So hopefully by the time everything is up and running again, we will have our resolutions from the 3 counties, our support letter from the governor and from the Secretary of Commerce, and we will be able to continue to make every effort to get that formal district status, which is what our goal is currently. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. We'll move to INDOT. Alderman.
Good morning. Just a couple of issues, and forgive me, Mr. Chairman, I kept my jacket on. I heard about the funding issue yesterday, and so I want to be prepared if you're going to throw me out. 2 things. Clyde Avenue, it is my understanding that Linda Fig from the Fig Group has indicated that construction could start the 1st of next year. So there's some commitment on that. The Niaspan Bridge, it appears that we're going to be finished with it in early December and get it open to traffic. In early December, we're planning a ribbon cutting with my friend the mayor and possibly the governor.
All right.
We've requested that he come up for this, and there seems to be some indication that that could happen. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. We have a ribbon cutting later this month for the Hoosier Heartland down south. I'm going to pitch this to Jim Pinkerton to talk about 2 issues, which is Amtrak and MPO funding. But the good news is the PO has been cut for this as of this morning. Obviously, there was a lot of electronic communication taking place throughout the evening yesterday and such about this. And this, we're on track now. And I'm sorry, I apologize for the inconvenience that it's caused you. I would hope things like this do not happen again. One other thing, for what it's worth, haven't had an opportunity to talk much about this, but in the June metrics for the 6 transportation districts in the state, we went, this district, and that measured the year, the fiscal year from June of 12 to June of 13. We were pretty low on the totem pole back in 12. Most of the metrics indicate that we're pretty much neck and neck with Fort Wayne, my former place, as the best in INDOT. And I'm pretty proud of that. I've had a lot of people step up and accept the challenge of meeting the needs in this area. So, and we continue to work with you all. The mayor and I were together about a week ago, and we're gonna convince you that you need a roundabout at one location. We need to talk about that. A little good news and a little bad news, but honestly, I think it probably has some benefit, and we'll talk about it. And we're dealing with some flooding issues and such in his area also. There's a number of people in this room that your areas, we're working with you on different things, and we'll make some things happen. But the good news is, we'll get you some money.
I would like to thank NDOT for getting the potholes fixed on US 41 and 132.
All right. Can I editorialize for 10 seconds?
Yes, come on, so go ahead.
Over the years, we could have accomplished so much more up here if we would have of all just stay engaged. And I regret that. Things could be a lot better if we would have had this kind of interactive, participatory for everyone in this process. I hope as we move forward, we all know what our needs are. We just need to be able to communicate those needs back and forth and find ways of funding them and making them happen. But I just turned down a job. I wrote a letter Tuesday morning asking to be removed from consideration for this position that I was a finalist for in Indianapolis. So you're stuck with me. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your kindness, but I'm a city boy. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I also love the Buckeyes, which will get me thrown out too. But I'm comfortable up there. It sounds more of a city environment to me than even Indianapolis. So I'm, for better or for worse, I'm here.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to congratulate Bob and say that I'm happy that he decided to remain up here as the district director. We're very satisfied with the work you've done in Gary on 4th and 5th Avenues. You've been very receptive as far as communicating with you. And whenever we were able to communicate some of the needs of the residents in that area and ask for accommodations, you accommodated us very rapidly. And so your response, and I don't want to say anything about the past director, but in relationship to the past director, your response has been exemplary. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the citizens in the city of Gary.
And in order to be fair, I'm the guy that Jim and I were the guys that pushed like the sidewalks and such, the things that we needed to do there. The reality of it is my friend Angie sitting back in the corner here is the person who took the rap for spending all the extra money. So she really is the person who made it happen in so many ways. She took the heat for the things that we did. We did what was the right thing to do. And I love what I see on 4th and 5th Avenue. Angie came up with the catch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say to Mr. Alderman, but he told me that someone else holds purse strings. So maybe I should just throw this out in general. Just like Mr. Carnahan had just said about potholes. Recently, NDOT came, we did some work in the area. We know that the Chicago Avenue thoroughfare is important, especially Hammond is getting ready to do some major work in that area, and I think we probably got 2, maybe 3 weeks left for asphalt season. So before they shut it down, if you could just come by and do another drive-by, you'll see there's some major holes down Chicago Avenue that needs to be done before wintertime gets here. But again, I echoed the same sentiments that everybody been hearing, that the one thing I cannot accuse you of lack of, and that is hearing. So again, you're welcome to my city anytime, but before the end of this season shut down for asphalt, could you do one more drive-by?
I didn't hear anything. Obviously, you've never talked to my ex-wife.
Mr. President, I do on a different issue with Bob. Pyrotechnics Guild International, which is the largest fireworks show in the United States, was in LaPorte a year ago, and they wanted to come back, but because of a building that we had built, they couldn't shoot where they were going to, and they had actually taken us off of the map as far as coming back. And I asked them at their last convention a few weeks ago, what would it take to get you back? And they said, well, State Road 2 would have to be closed. And through our county engineer, myself, and we got a hold of Bob, and it's a $3.5 million economic development hit for the city of LaPorte. And Bob says, well, of course we could shut that road down. And nobody could believe it, but this is a cooperation now that we're getting from the state highway, or that, you know, it goes sometimes unnoticed. He always gets the brunt of everything, but there's a lot of times he needs a pat on the back, and this is one of them.
Well, you know, it's always fearful what anyone has in their hand when they pat me on the back. Yeah, honestly, you know, part of my job is to take the criticism. Are we ever going to have great highways? No. But I appreciate what you're saying. You know, I want to work with everybody. It's that simple. I'm kind of like the mayor. I don't know 80% of the people here is politics, and it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't care about things like that. And Mayor, I believe we've already communicated with maintenance, and Jim, I believe, was the source about getting back in and filling those potholes before the asphalt plants close.
Thank you very much.
We are sensitized to that issue. We're also still negotiating behind the scenes about doing something more with that road.
Okay, thank you. Because, you know, when Hammond get through with their leg, it's just going to magnify the inefficiencies on our side, you know.
Agreed.
And I had a gentleman get in touch with me, he told me about his low-profile tires and how much they cost, and it was 26 inches and this and that and that. And when he come out of Hammond to East Chicago, he pays the price. So, you know, and because people perceive that as being our road instead of it being the state road. So,
Ty had asked me to just do a quick update on the Amtrak situation. The deal has been signed or agreed to in principle to keep the Hoosier State Line running. I know Mr. Wright from Gary Public Transit had some concerns about where the NDOT portion of the money was coming from. It is not taking away any funds from public mass transit. The General Assembly passed a special budget provision that allows us to use state highway funds to fund the Amtrak service. So I just wanted to clarify that for the folks who have public mass transit concerns, that's where that money is coming from. It's coming out of our section, not the mass transit area. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clarified on that with the news reports that have been coming out in the last couple of days.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Alderman, any other business?
More than enough already, right?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? Sure, Mr. Alderman. Regarding the Ileana, sir, from what I understand, CMAP is voting today.
At 3:30 this afternoon.
And am I correct, if CMAP votes down the Ileana, that is it dead? I mean, do we have anything to talk about at that point? Because I know that this is coming up on our agenda next month, I believe. And I know that it's already been shot down once, but from what I understand, it's the final bullet if it gets shot down today. Is that true?
I think it's still, you take in, if in fact it were to lose the vote, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if in fact you were to lose the vote in Illinois, then you look at why they voted against it, and if in fact there is a corrective action you can take and repropose it. I think we continue to go forward with our portion of it, which is the only thing that we control. No, I don't think just because if in fact they vote against it today, it's not like it's dead in the water.
But it's delayed though, I mean.
It is delayed, yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you for your report. Thanks. No more questions.
Just one more related to this, and that would be, I'd like to extend congratulations and thanks to our governor and to everybody who was involved in keeping the Hoosier State Line open. I think that was something we voted on at the last meeting in support of, and I'm very positive, and I'm glad that it was successful.
Mr. Alderman. Thank you. Okay, any other business that needs to come from the NERC this morning?
Comment, and I'd like to ask a question to every community. Cedar Lake is having a parade of lights November 23rd, and I would like to know, I was told that there are many parades of lights in Northwest Indiana. Is there any other, the only other community I know that does one is Lowell. Does any other community do one? Whiting does? Any others? Okay, I was told there was a lot of them, so I'd like to thank the mayor for putting Maui the trolley in our Cedar Lake Parade of Lights. And I would like to thank Court Treasurer Michael Griffin for stepping up to the plate to be one of our judges, and Karen Freeman Wilson. I asked at a meeting and she agreed also, and I've got Paul Nelson from Channel 56 coming down to be the third judge.
Very good.
Bob, we have one.
Make sure he comes back all washed and the tires are dead air, okay? Yes.
The last meeting, it was mentioned that NICD had not developed a TOD plan or policy, and that's not true. We developed one in 2009, and I believe that was forwarded to Mr. Warner and by NICD maybe a few weeks ago. But anyways, I'll see that you get a copy, and that we do pass that, we get that distributed to everybody, that there is such a plan.
Thank you. Update. Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the city of Gary. I was glad to hear the comments of Commissioner Sid. You passed today this Livable Communities resolution. I was a little, not surprised, I would say, because I think this has a lot of benefits for communities that are going to be affected by this. And there's a lot of carrot involved in it, with the extra money, and I think that will be usable in a lot of communities. I noticed that the city designated with the largest, most encompassing livable areas is also the city that is probably least livable, with in the midst of a food desert, with less connectivity between areas at the city of Gary. Largest areas of livable communities designated, but probably the least livable communities in actuality. Part of the goal of this is the public transportation, transportation-oriented development, which Ms. Sid was referencing. And at one of the committee meetings, when the Representative Soliday mentioned that there was no TOD, that they don't have a resolution regarding that, I followed up at the meeting to get a copy of it. And the basis of the NICD transportation-oriented development, their resolution is oriented to a public-private partnership. Most recently, changing the train station. They wanted to move the train station from our designated area, which is a livable area in Miller on Lake Street, and the primary livable area, which is downtown Gary. They wanted to move those train stations. And surprisingly, they wanted to put this transportation center directly where it's not in one of the livable communities. So if I hold my enthusiasm, if I contain my enthusiasm for the planning work that's done on this, it's because I see some of the hypocrisy involved in it. You know, we designate large areas in our city, but we have to fight to get sidewalks in the transportation, in the road improvements. You know, the mayor of our city even goes so far as to say she doesn't think sidewalks are part of road improvements. So when we fight for sidewalks on Lake Street or Grand Avenue, or connectivity to the improvements at Marquette Park, instead of making Marquette Park oriented towards just people driving and parking, we wanted paths around the park. We wanted to connect the park to the adjacent communities. We still have, even in this Fifth, Fourth Corridor project, we still have gaps in the sidewalks. Still have gaps in the sidewalks. Some of them are only a few hundred feet long. but we're passing on even making those simple improvements. At a previous meeting, I talked about sidewalks along Route 1220. A member of the Gary Public Transportation also reiterated the importance of these. So great that you guys are passing this. Great that we're getting a lot of lip service regarding transportation-oriented development. But when the policies of NICD say we're going to have transportation-oriented development and we're going to locate it right outside the livable communities, and we're going to spend tens of millions of dollars, and that's still the policy of NICD today, that they want to close Miller, that they want to close downtown Gary, and they want to put it right there outside of the livable communities. So we've got a little carrot for communities on this, but there should be a stick too. If you're going to designate the entire city as livable areas, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I'm gonna urge NICD to if we're not going to change it, you've already passed it, but you've got to put a little teeth in it too. If a community is going to call something a livable community, they can't do things that go directly against the plan. And NICD's got to stand up for some of the decisions that you're making here. Thank you.
My name is Louise Karwowski. I'm with the Sierra Club, and all of these wonderful plans to develop the northern section around Lake County, and yet you want to support Gillian. I don't understand it. The funds will be diverted. I've sent every one of you a letter with the Sierra Club's position, the Dulands group of Sierra Club, and I hope you'll take time to read it all, so that we will keep the funds up around our county and not encourage urban sprawl farther south. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Renee Jackson. I have one question. Mary Rand, certain things that we were discussing yesterday, as far as what is the appropriate time and who is the appropriate person to address certain things to. I needed to get a little clarification, like you mentioned that certain questions we might have dealing with something like why NERC is ignoring their obligation to the federal consent decree. You said that should go to the lawyer. But what do we do if our lawyer contacts your lawyer and he does not respond? In writing back to the lawyer, in responses, any other kind of way to us, what do we do in that sense? Where do we go? Who do we contact?
Is it a hypothetical question, or is it I think we do respond.
We always want to engage in conversation with people that we represent. We had a great conversation yesterday, and I appreciate the fact that you guys had an opportunity to come to Crown Point, and we had an opportunity to sit there and talk. We could have done that in another venues, so to say, but it still worked out. If it's a situation where, again, you believe that, we talked about this yesterday, we believe we're in correct standing, we believe you're in correct standing, there is a referee in this, and that's a judge who can decide that for you. Again, we said this is not the venue because all we're going to do is maybe agree or disagree at this point at this location. And if you think that the NERC is in violation, which we do not believe we are, and if you think we are, then you have a remedy to that. You have an attorney, and your attorney can file the correct motions, processes, follow the laws, and a neutral party can decide who was right or wrong. But like I said yesterday before, we're here to discuss progressive ideas about moving the region forward, connectability between all the three counties, and that's what the mission of the people that show up here at every meeting is for. If you think there's a violation in some part of the operation or the mission of this body, there's a remedy.
So anytime that there's a question that deals with the lawyer and he does not respond, we have to go to court.
I'm not saying that. I don't know how to answer a question. I don't know. It's a hypothetical situation.
If it's any kind of legal matter and he does not respond.
We do have an executive director, Ty Warner, so you have another option. He represents the faces of all the communities in this room. He has representation with his staff. I would suggest utilizing our executive director if you have concerns or questions.
David, I think something to consider. This is a council of governments. Every citizen is represented by one and oftentimes two people, so they have representatives because it's a representative democracy. So to work through their elected officials is really the model. So that would be another recourse.
And that's the reason we started when the initial meetings was to inform our constituents they do have representation. Matter of fact, when we had a conversation with the group that was in front of the City Hall yesterday, I asked them, have they even reached out to the representatives, and some of them didn't even know who they were. I was able to provide a list of the NERC Commission members to those people and said, you have an avenue. And sometimes the avenue does cross, and you have county elected officials who represent a wider scope. So it might not have been your city or town. You've got elected officials within your own county that also represent you well. So you have many different venues you can use. And again, we're not trying to divert or take the responsibility away from certain people. Again, as the chair, I preside over a meeting. I have no additional power or additional rules that I can do more so than any other commissioner in this room can do. Even though I'm accused of that, that's one thing. But we work together, and we talk about, like earlier with Mayor Tom, talked about this body gets along very well and works for the betterment of this community. And anytime you put people in a room, you leave the R's and the D's at the door, and the only one you wear is a Region hat. And that door is always open for anybody, through elected officials, through constituents, visitors, business owners, anybody else. And I've never ever seen anybody ever turned away. Nobody's ever been turned down, be in front of that mic. All we ask you for is, if you're going to talk in the public, let's talk about the things that the people in this room can help you with, okay? And if it's a topic that this body can't, there's outside walls and opportunities to talk, and we'll make sure we give that information. So, okay, Mrs. Torres.
Mr. Uran, that sounds wonderful. However, unfortunately, it's not what you said last month on tape. You specifically said if there's anything not on the agenda, we will not discuss it. What's not on your agenda today is the status of the public participation plan that's still not on your website. There's a lot of people here who are unaware of the fact that many people had great difficulty, got up at 6 in the morning to get here to a meeting, and spent 6 meetings during which they were told, we'll have many changes. We will be more open to the public rather than less. And in fact, the people on that committee, many of them, were amazed by the fact that your attorney had been getting correspondence from our attorney for years that you knew nothing about. And so I'm sure you can understand that after all of those meetings, during which we acted in good faith and were told, we're going to change that. We're going to answer those questions. We're going to be more open to the public. For the response to that to be less open is, with all due respect, hypocritical. Now, there's been an ongoing campaign, and it remains today. I really don't care. So if those of you think it's problematic for me or my agency, it's not. But to represent that the problem is that we're coming here. Well, first of all, the problem is that I'm coming here. My agency has federal funds, that's what the deal is, federal funds to represent those who don't have access to public transportation to get here. When they do come here, like this gentleman to my right, and had said not one single word but walked in the room and sat down, you called for police on the man. So we tend not to react real positively to those kinds of things. Our records, which go back 20 years, certainly longer, sir, than you've been on this commission, show that the strategy has always been try to divide and conquer, go be nice to these people, talk bad about that person, make promises, get people to go to meetings, tell them there'll be resolution. The bottom line is, there are federal regulations you're not following. We're not the only ones telling you that. There's a federal court consent decree you're under. You didn't even know that. Members on the committee were appalled. And they said, well, we'll start talking about that. And now you say, any letter, any communication from everybody counts, no matter what it's about, has to go through your attorney. Well, not every issue we raise has to do with that consent decree. But those letters have gone completely unanswered by your attorney. And since we're talking about people's lives, we'd like to know how long it takes to get an answer. Thus far, we've waited since May, this most recent time. But in fact, for 17 years. And those who doubt that can go to our website. We'll post all the old meetings. And you can read all the old newspaper editorials. Now, we were promised a new day. What you've done instead, today is a perfect example. We've explained to you what the ADA requires, and yet when I pointed out, this gentleman over here that you're talking to can't hear you. We're waiting for an audio loop. So you just kept talking. There have been other occasions. I had several members of the CAT call me yesterday and say, you know, you told people I need an audio loop. Or Barbara, another woman who came here, needs large print. And while what you guys do fulfilled that need and provided that money. What did not make the newspapers, but you should know, is that the reason for South Lake County's $100,000 windfall is because a member, a staff person at NERC forgot to turn in a piece of paper. We say nothing in this room that we cannot fully document. So your way of going about business, if it's problematic, sometimes can't wait 6 months to know. First of all, there's nothing on your website to tell the general public who their representative is. This gentleman doesn't have a computer. Half the people that come in here with the CAT don't have computers. The point of it is you've never had a policy of going to your representative. You only initiated that, not when we started coming back to your meetings again, but when you recognized we were right. We said you can't pass the tip, you didn't have public hearings. Oh yeah, you're right. So if you're not willing to hear the hard questions, to keep your word and to follow up, please don't expect us to allow you to misrepresent your facts, your words, and your efforts to divide and conquer. For every person back here, there's 100 and some that would be here. If they could get here, there's no way here. And when they heard about your calling the police on a couple of guys on walkers and blind guys, they didn't feel real anxious to come here. So I will continue to do my job. Everybody Counts is a federally funded agency. My job is to be the voice for those who can't come here. If you want to personalize that, please feel free. It's nothing new. But do know that those of you who are the representatives will be hearing from the people again, and much more often. For you to respond and say, well, just go to court, after we wasted hours and hours and hours. Now you're going to hit the gavel because he told you to. Right? You can't make up your own mind. Right. Hours and hours talking.
Mrs. Torres.
This is your business.
Anybody else that give public comment?
This gentleman has his hand up.
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Don't call him out this way.
When I was expressing several meetings I've been to, not just this type, several other meetings dealing with things in the same nature, from the RBA meetings, etc. And it's just awful to me that I don't even have words to right now say. I'm just praying inside myself that I thank God for what's in me, the God that's in me, because if it wasn't in me that way, I don't know what I could do and say, because it's so hard to sit and listen to the things that I'm hearing. I'm hearing the same old song, SOS. It just keeps coming out, the same old song. And we're coming close to people say that Christmas and Christmas feeling. I wonder, people don't have that genuine integrity anymore about themselves. It's so easy to do other things, it seems like, other than having just some simple integrity. And I'm listening, here it is, I expressed to you here, there's people in this community that I live in, and you're talking about all this community stuff. And I'm listening, I said, wait, there's people in this community, we're living proof of it is. There's stores around us, Myers is right there. And we got people who can't go to Myers because there's not a sidewalk or a safe place to walk to go to Myers just from about a half a mile away from Myers, where I live. There's not a safe way to walk there. And then people say, well, who do we have to see to get somebody to see about us that are in these wheelchairs, and people like me that are blind or whatever else can't get there because it's not safe, but you can walk down the sidewalk so far and then it stops. And then the people tell you, don't go any further. Then you get over there by the store and you got the pharmacy, because the people that's in the store are not mindset thinking about somebody walking there, but you're talking about walking to these places. It'll be the same old thing. We won't be able to get there again because the sidewalk stopped here, or somebody wasn't really thinking about the people that they say they're really making this for. And it's getting to me more and more, because I've always been helping people when I could see. And now that I'm in this state that I can't see, in some ways I'm blessed because I can't see your faces. And I'm glad I can't see, because I don't want to know how you're looking at me and thinking, because I can feel how you are looking at me. And it's worse.
Mac, can I ask you, how does this pertain right now, besides what you believe, how we do our jobs? What comment you want to make about what nurses can do?
Can you hear him?
Some of it, even with this thing. But what my comment is I needed to get that out, so I apologize for that. I just need to get that out. I apologize. What I'm actually standing up for is, I heard all those things that you guys are saying, but again, my point is, what's going to make it different? Is NERC really going to consider the fact that here is a person that you're saying that you want to see about helping with transportation? I'm not seeing that. Like I gave you that letter to show you what I'm talking about. It's evidence. It's not no hypothetical thing. It is. We got people there that I don't like to use the word handicapped, disabled or impaired, that don't want to get on the bus, don't even take South Lake anymore, because that's the only one they know about. Most of them don't know this Gary bus they can take. Don't want to get on South Lake because they feel the people are being inconsiderate to them, so the best thing for them is just forget it. I don't know how, I won't go nowhere.
Mac, we addressed that concern earlier and made a motion to make sure that that does not happen going forward. I can only say that you've got to, even though you felt in the past that that's not the case, we've made a motion today. If we fail on that, then you have every right to come back to this full commission and tell us we didn't do a good job. But I'm telling you, we've passed the motion today by full commission to address that concern. Give us the time to fix it now, because the ball's in our court. If we fumble it, then you can tell us we fumbled the ball.
Yes, sir. In all due respect, the reason I'm saying that is I can feel the way things are going is such on this side. I'm on this side. From where I feel, this is what I feel of this meeting is. It won't be long where I will have no voice. So I'm doing my best to get out everything I can to say, because that's the way I feel. I won't have any voice to say anything. And then my good friend here of the cat asked the question, and what I'm getting out of that is that, okay, we're told to wait for this, wait for that. How long do we wait?
Wow.
How long do we wait? That's the question I'm asking. How long do we? You say give you some time. Okay, when I get on the phone, I call AT&T, American Thieves and Thugs. I get on there and call AT&T, and then I'm waiting there, and they send you to the next person. They send you to the next person. Could you wait? Could you wait a little bit longer? Wait a little longer. I'm asking you guys the same question.
You've made your point. Thank you.
God bless you. And God forgive you for what you know what you do.
Any other public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that those of us who are elected officials, and some of us for quite some time, we have, because we represent people, we represent all kinds of people and people with all kinds of attitudes. But at some point, when someone stands and just insults you, minute after minute after minute, says you guys, says, I'm glad I can't see your face, says, God forgive you, I feel hostility. I mean, what if we did anything like that? You know?
You're doing it.
And
You're doing it.
And,
sir, you're doing it.
And interrupt people all the time. We just don't do that. So I just, I like to point out that, there's two ways to go on this. And thank you for listening to me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting and turn it back to Ty Warner, who's our executive director, for his report.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations on passing the Livable Centers program. As I said last time, this is a very innovative program for Northwestern Indiana. It really puts NERC's money where its plans are. So hope you, the communities that are eligible to take part in it, and we're very excited about that going forward. Thanks to Mr. Alderman again for cutting the PO and the communication there. We appreciate that very much. Greatly appreciated the communication with INDOT, with Jim Pinkerton here in Northwestern Indiana. It has been good. I just came literally driving up this morning from Terre Haute from the MPO conference, Indiana MPO conference, and the subject of communication was big, ways to improve that. Carl Browning was there addressing us, and the MPO directors had some good positive conversations about how to work better on getting better data coordinated, et cetera. So very good and productive. Representative Soliday is not here, was not able to join this morning, but during that conference, they added a new award at the awards dinner last night for meritorious service by an elected official. And thanks to Representative Soliday's work with the MPO Council in identifying what funding is available for projects versus where that gap is of what's needed versus what's there. And for his work with the MPO Council in that award was given to him. So although he couldn't be here this morning, he regrets being there. Congratulations to Representative Soliday. A little bit earlier was at the NARP Executive Directors Conference, and always a great conference because that's much more peer-oriented and being able to share organizational development among MPOs, so that was, and other regional councils, so that was very helpful. The MAP 21 issue we'll be diving into more with the Legislative Committee, but Steve Strains and Commissioner Schaefer and I were at a roundtable event some time back to talk about issues of MAP 21 as it comes forward for reauthorization. That report has been completed by NARC, and we'll be drawing on that with the Legislative Committee on the things that they're concerned about. While we were in California, the government shut down, of course. As you're all well aware, the impacts here we're starting to get of concern. FTA payments were at issue. We already heard from Commissioner Allen about EDA and the ability to function there. Our work with EPA, of course, also was on hold, including the Northside redevelopment area that Mayor Freeman Wilson is involved in. And of course, the National Park. Mr. Benson had to leave, but as you all have seen, it's been eerie to see the National Park shut down and barricades up on trails, et cetera. And I know it also affected the Dunes Learning Center. So we're happy that an agreement has been reached, at least temporarily, to reopen the government. Some quick things just to recognize here. First of all, a note on, let me say this, on Ileana for December 12th, when that's coming forward. Just a heads up on that, we're anticipating that this space may be problematic in terms of room. So we're looking into the options, possible options for another meeting space to increase the capacity of the room. We'll, of course, keep you posted on that, but just wanted to give you the heads up on that possibility in December. And also to reiterate that the public comment period is open. There's a special portion of our website, a webpage devoted to the Ileana, where you can download related documents and make comments, et cetera. So that's all open and running. Okay, very quickly, some recognitions. Unfortunately, these folks had to leave, but if you saw the Indiana Business Magazine, Blair Milo was recognized as one of the, was it 20 under 40 group, which was great. Also, B.R. King from the city of Gary. Freeman Wilson could not be here, but also Ian Nicolini from Cedar Lake, also recognized in that crowd. So
front cover.
Yeah, exactly. Front cover photo, and very good for this region, and I think gives hope for future leadership in this region. So congratulations to all those that received that award. The last recognition I have here is for Gary Evers, who is sitting against the wall there. I think you all know Gary very well. Gary has come up on 20 years of service. And as I realized when I first got here, the amount of information in Gary's head is astounding. And he's also, as you've experienced, I think, all of you very willing to share that information and is very humble about it at the same time. And I've appreciated all of his work, and for 20 years of service, Gary, thank you very much. And that is all I have.
There's no other business to come to the board. We have a motion to adjourn.
You do. Motion.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Against?